Building muscle, the elusive holy grail of many guys going into the gym. How do we achieve it? What strategy do we need? What are the best exercises to do to gain as much muscle as possible? Is it really squat, bench, and deadlift? Welcome to another episode of the Self-Made Podcast, and on this week's episode, I bring back Brett Mccarten. Well, I say bring back, but this is actually an old live we did on Instagram almost a year ago now, but the information in it is still just as valuable today. We talk everything in terms of building muscle, what we think are the best approaches, is there a best approach, what results that he's got and I've got with our clients, and how we both approach this process. This is a really, really interesting conversation with a fantastic coach that specializes in building lots of tissue on guys. So please enjoy the show, and as always, if you enjoy the episode, please share on all your favorite podcast platforms, tagging myself and Brett. If you want to support the show, please drop a review on iTunes or whatever your favorite podcast platform is, and go to our Buy Me a Coffee link in the description below to support the show and allow us to do much more of it. So without further ado, I will leave you myself and Brett. And we're live, and in the words of Bill Hartman, for anyone who knows him, I've got my coffee in hand and it is perfect. So I'm in a much more comfortable position here than I was last time, balancing on my windowsill, on my sofa, ready to introduce Brett into the live. Brett, who has just joined, so I'll just give him a little bit of an intro and then we can rock and roll. I met on Nick Daniels' course, so really, really smart guy, takes his education really seriously, and we bonded over a love of wrestling t-shirts is what got me noticed with this guy. But he's been getting some phenomenal results with people who really shouldn't gain that much muscle. He has great transformation with them, so we're going to talk everything muscle gaining, particularly for people who, are quote-unquote hard gainers, if you believe the term. So I'm just going to welcome him on. Here we go. Did that work?
Hello, mate.
Here he is. How's it going? You right?
I'm good, thanks, man. How are you?
Yeah, mate. Not too bad. Not too bad. The weather's hot and humid here, but it's good.
Is it? We've got frost here,
It's snowing there.
A little bit. It looks. I went outside this morning. It looks like it's kind of snowed a little bit overnight, but it's like when it's like really frosty and just you can see your breath in front of your face. Yeah, it's that sort of weather at the moment. But I'm hoping it warms up to a Hong Kong levels very, very soon, mate.
Fingers crossed, man. Like we had a cooler winter than we usually do here, but like the previous winter it was like November, and we're still getting like days in like the 40s. I went to Macau Grand Prix, and it was one of the hottest days I've ever known in my life. Like little Asian guys are in trousers and jackets, and I'm like, what are you doing?
Yeah,
so warm.
It's like the Australian winters. Over there, everyone was just like wearing jackets and stuff, and I was like rocking around in a basketball jersey, and everyone's like, it's freezing. I'm like, 25 degrees. What are you talking about? Like, I was like, I'm from England. This is my summer.
I had a couple of people recently tell me that they've never seen me in long trousers, and I realised I've worn them, I think, 3.5 times in the 18 months I've been here. One time, well, technically 4 times. I got 2 halves. One was forced because a restaurant wouldn't allow me in shorts. One time because I thought it was pretty cold, and then the other halves were, once went into a bar, they didn't like me wearing shorts, but they had a loaner pair of trousers that I could put on, which is a weird experience.
Cool.
Another time where I decided to go outside for my once a year cardio session, and realizing it was much colder inside than it was outside.
Man, you know what? I'm a shorts guy. Like I say every day, right? I'm wearing joggers for probably the first time in a long time now, but I am the shorts guy. Winter, wore shorts all through winter. Like I am that guy. I'm the dad guy. It's like he's a dad.
Well, I always consider it's a rugby player mentality. Like rugby players, it's always shorts and flip flops in the snow.
Yeah.
I remember I used to wear shorts all the way through winter when I was in Wales. That's brutally cold.
Horrible, mate. It's not as bad up here, but I'm dealing with it. I'm doing all right.
So before we get on to like fitness stuff and muscle building stuff, I've got to ask: have you watched Mania?
I knew you were going to ask that. Yeah, I have. I didn't stay up for it. I told a lot of my clients not to stay up for it as well. Some of them did. But yeah, I've watched it. I enjoyed it. It was a good It was a good mania. I much prefer the setting over 2 nights rather than 1 night.
I agree. I'm a couple of matches short. I'm just getting onto Rhea Asuka. So just in the entrance.
You'll enjoy that.
I liked night 1. I did not like the Fiend match.
Yeah. See,
what was that?
I'm in 2 minds about it. I kind of enjoyed it. I didn't enjoy the match, but I kind of enjoyed the theory around it. So, yeah.
Yeah. I was hoping for a 5-5 Funhouse style. I thought it was too perfect, and I just think I've built up my expectations way too high. So it was only myself to blame, really.
Man, it's WWE. Don't set them too high.
Exactly. I'm waiting for the next AEW one where there's a blood and guts match, which is their version of War Games.
That would be good, man. Yeah, man, absolutely.
So moving on to the sort of stuff from that most people are going to come on here for. Tell people a little about yourself, about your business, what your clientele is, what's your sort of pocket in the industry.
So, do you know what? You think I'd be better prepared than this? I didn't even think, like, I'm just gonna have to talk and just be like, yeah, this is who I am. So, I've been a coach. I've worked in the fitness industry for.
Sorry to interrupt you, but we've got a member of Busted just joining the live. So just make sure this is really, really good, right? It's got to live up to the hype now.
Live up to the high standards. Cool. All right. So I've been in the industry for 8 years now. Been a PT for 6. Worked out of Newcastle upon Tyne rather than Underline. Worked in commercial gyms mainly, to be honest. And been online for the last year. And I didn't really have like a niche or anything like that. I think that the way I was going to go, the way that I wanted to go was down the build your glutes and things like that, because that was so popular, like everyone's on like Brett Contreras and stuff like this. And it's like, yeah, you got to follow this. And in a commercial gym, a lot of people come to you because they want to build the glutes. And, because I think our population was like 60% female, and that was like 90% student, something like that. It was crazy. Yeah. You'd be surprised how many students actually go for personal training as well. But then
I found that in Birmingham, there were so many.
Then go out and party like 3 nights a week and stuff, and it's like, no, come on. So, yeah, I was going to go down that, and I just thought, fuck, can I swear?
Swear away. All
right, sound. I was like, fuck me, I don't enjoy this. Like, and then it just started getting a little bit repetitive, and I had a few drop-offs and stuff, which was fine because I wasn't enjoying that side of things anyway. Then I went over to the online side of things, and I had a couple of friends come over to the coaching aspect and be like, oh, can you help me with this? I was like, yeah. And then that was building muscle, helping them drop fat. And I was like, I really enjoy this, because not just because it's kind of training that I enjoy myself, but I was like, I'm enjoying seeing these results more, rather than just looking for one measurement around the glutes.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like one circumference measurement, like that's all what someone cares about if they're trying to build the glutes. Whereas if we're trying to stay clean but build muscle, then we've got lots of different things that we need to look out for. And as I started learning more and more, because I'm not afraid to say that there was years where I was like, yeah, it's just calorie in versus calorie out. Do you know what I mean? But the fitness Instagram and things like that, they portray it as just calories in versus calories out, but it's you need to go a lot deeper to be able to help someone properly and help them really manage a lifestyle rather than just coming into the gym once or twice a week and then saying like, yeah, see you later, I'll see you next week. Like, especially when it comes to lifestyle habits. So I really enjoyed that side of things. So yeah, that's a long story short, or long story long of me saying I'm into the muscle building section now. So that's where I am, where I've been, and who I am.
I think it sort of comes in waves, sort of like the fitness industry, where we'll probably hit in about a year's time the people going into the deeper stuff again, and then people will get overwhelmed and too complicated with it, and then it will flip back and just become calories in versus calories out again.
Yeah.
And it's very few people I know in the industry that have managed to sort of like, and what we spoke about, you called the podcast we did Bridging the Gap, but like it's true that very few people have managed to sort of like bridge that between, I've just read this in a book and it's nerdy, I'm going to put it on Instagram, and it's just calories in versus calories out. And I think, like Luke Lehman, obviously we both know very well. He talks about like, yes, it is calories in, calories out, but most people don't know what truly goes into calories in versus calories out. It's not just eat food, move more. With calories out, there's so many factors. So like bringing us back onto sort of muscle building, and you talk about the things there's more to it than just calories in versus calories out. And before we get into like client specific, what is it you look for? What is like the key drivers in your mind when you're trying to put muscle on somebody?
So yeah, we've got the calories, which is a big thing. A big thing for me is the stress aspect. That's something that I'll try and manage with so many people, because probably other than dropping your calories and being in a deficit, the other thing that's going to stop you, well, one of the biggest things that's going to stop you from building muscle is just being massively stressed all the time. So if someone's coming to me and being like, oh, I eat all the time. I said this to my client as well yesterday in the check-ins, but I eat all the time, I eat loads of food and I just can't put muscle on. And it's like, okay, let's dial it back. Right, sound. So you're actually only eating 2,000 calories, but because you're eating, like, do you know what I mean? Like some days you're eating 2,000, some days you're eating 3,000, but there's no real correlation. You're not on the same level. And then on top of that, you're stressed, you're at your desk job all the time, you ain't doing anything for it. You might have a rocky relationship and stuff like that. There's all these different factors, and then suddenly it's, I'm going to the toilet all the time. I don't digest my food very well. I feel quite bloated when I'm having my food. And it's like, well, if we can start to manage all these things, you'll be feeling a hell of a lot better. We're going to be improving your health. And then as the domino effect of that, we're going to start getting results and building more muscle.
Yeah, I wonder how much I thought an interesting thing you said there was talking about people saying, I eat loads, because that's something we hear all the time with younger guys trying to build muscle, right? I eat loads, I can't gain weight. And it's very rare that I've ever actually done a diet audit on somebody where they're actually eating loads. Yeah. And I wonder how much of that comes from people going into this all or nothing mentality of clean versus not clean food, whatever the fuck that means, and if you wash it or something. But with that, if it's they have a bit of pizza, they have a couple of beers, they have a donut, and because they consider those bad foods, they consider them eating loads, when actually they're not eating very much. And I know for guys that are struggling to put on muscle, and I'm a perfect case example anymore, is it that they really struggle? Always, I find that every time I get someone we quote unquote an ectomorph that comes in front of me, 9 times out of 10, they're also the ones that most likely to forget to eat. They get stressed and they get busy and they go all day and they go, I've not eaten anything. Mm-hmm. Do you find the same thing with the guys you get?
Absolutely. And I think I've been guilty of this in the past as well. I can put muscle on quite well now. I'm not the biggest of guys by any means, but for what I want, like I'm doing all right. But I used to be guilty of that. I used to be like, oh, I haven't had a chance to do this, and I had a chance to do that, and then I'd get stressed and I'd try and cram or a perfect example, in between sessions, you've got like 3 minutes in between sessions. You get some oats, wrap it in the microwave, down it, and then you go out and you're like, oh, this ain't sitting well. Of course it's not. You're stressed out. You've got 3 minutes. Like, calm down. But you're right. A lot of people do come and they're like, I'm stressed. I've forgotten to eat this and I've forgotten to eat that. Or, I've not done this workout today because, I was super busy. It's like, we need to be ticking these boxes. Like, and I say this a lot to my clients, that muscle building is so much harder than fat loss. Like, I try and use an analogy, which I don't think works very well. But like, if you were building a house or knocking down a house, like if you had like a bulldozer, you could just go smash. We could just bring your calories all the way down. Nice one. You drop 5 kilos. Cool. But if you were trying to build muscle, that shit needs to be really, really slow, because you're going brick by brick.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that. I think it's, and the slow being the key word. I don't know whether it's, I think it is harder, but I think it's often harder because fat loss has a deadline. So like, I've always found it much easier to diet. Like, people ask, do you prefer dieting or bulking? And people, I think generally the people that never really properly committed to a diet probably say that it must be so much harder to diet. And I love eating all the food, whereas people that find it, like I've gone all in on a diet, tend to say the opposite. And I'm definitely done that, because for me, if someone says to me, right, you've got 2, 3, 4 months and you're going to be tunnel vision on a goal, I can do that because I can sort of see it mentally. But trying to say, oh, you have a level of focus and tick all these boxes for 2, 3, 4, odd years. How do you combat that with your clients to think ways of thinking long term rather than thinking, short term and then end up crashing? How do you get around that?
It's very much, it's something I say to them all the time. It's very much a process and just trying to evaluate every couple of weeks and see where we are. It's have we gone overboard on certain not certain foods, but certain days, certain weeks, certain weekends? Have we gone overboard? Have we gained any fat from this because we've gone over what we were meant to be doing? You're right, it is difficult because fat loss, like for example, I've got a client at the moment, we brought his calories down a little bit, but I was like, we're only going to be here for 2 weeks. We're only going to be here for 2 weeks, and I'm going to put your calories back up. So kind of like a diet break in a way.
Yeah.
And psychologically, he, like in his check-ins, it was like, this helps loads because I know we've got this end date. Whereas when it's building muscle, I don't know yet. Again, it's a process because you want to see them circumference measures increase, right? You want to see that weight increase. But for me, like with a lot of my clients who are trying to build muscle, I'll turn around and be like, okay, we're going to take this maybe like a few weeks, 1 month at a time, reevaluate from there, and then we can adapt your program. We can do X, Y, Z. But whatever I'm doing is working, right?
Yeah. I mean, like, so when you say you measure every couple of weeks to see if anyone they've got a bit of stuff, what are you looking for in those 2-week measurements to see if somebody's on track? Because with fat loss, you're 1% per week, your calipers are coming down, but it's a little bit harder when you're coaching someone for muscle building. So what are you looking for those progress assessments? So
I would, especially if we were trying to push calories up a little bit further, I would try and make sure that they felt comfortable in terms of the digestion, because suddenly a lot more food, if they can't handle it, maybe it's like, okay, maybe we just pull back a little bit more and we leave it a few weeks and then we just push again and just get you used to it, get you adapting to it. I do want to see the circumference measures start to increase. Like, let's say it's a guy who comes to me, wants to build muscle around his chest, around his arms. Obviously I want to see those measurements increase. I like to see the weight increase as well. If we're heading down, I'd be like, right, this is a cool recomp phase, but let's start pushing food if you can handle it a little bit more. I think I just knocked my camera there. What else would I look towards? Just how they were feeling as well, how they were feeling with the training. Are they recovering well? Are they progressing? Are they getting some PBs in the gym? Are they happy with the train? Are they motivated to an extent? Do they feel good? Motivation is a big one as well. But at the same time, we want the client to feel motivated towards their goal. But sometimes motivated towards their goal and motivated towards the training are two different things. And that's something that I've had to almost like decipher a lot, especially within the lockdown, because home workouts have been boring, mate. You'll know yourself, like home workouts just don't hit the same. So when someone doesn't want to do the workout, it's like, right, we've done this for a few months. This is it. We want this to be your discipline right now. You might not be motivated, but we want this to be your discipline. So I really need you just to push for 30 minutes, 30, 40 minutes max, even set like a time limit on it. And then that's it. Just cut it off, go upstairs, chill out, and then eat afterwards. But yeah, motivation is a very big part of it towards training and towards the goal, especially now that gyms have opened back in the UK.
Yeah, I think that's a really interesting thing you said about the lockdown training and like how it doesn't motivate many people. And I've always looked at, I think people trying to emulate what they did in the gym at home is automatically a recipe for disaster. They're going to get demotivated because it's like, when I used to do sets of 90 kilos for 6 rep bench press, and now I'm doing sets of 20 kilo dumbbells for 50 reps, it's just not the same.
Yeah.
So when it comes to like my coach at times, like, right, we're not even going to try and emulate it. It's like, what can we do in this time? That means when you get back to the gym, you can like do all the stuff that's held you back beforehand.
Mm-hmm.
All the stability stuff, all the aerobic base, all the stuff that's going to push your stuff forward now, but you can kind of get into it because it's a new goal and it's something that you can do optimally, as close to optimally as you can, at home.
I think you're really right there. Like I was trying to do like, because I don't have an incline bench. I don't have a bench at all. So I was trying to like lie on 3 stairs, right? And be there with my dumbbell and try and emulate an incline press that I'd like had to put together myself that was like 21, but I had like the small plates and it had like 2 massive plates that were for barbells instead, and I'd had to try and makeshift it on. And I was just like, it doesn't feel great. It doesn't feel good because you're not able to match it. And I'm trying to match to what I was able to do in the gym. Whereas, when I spoke to Luke, he said that very much with his training in terms of the lockdowns, that rather than emulate the stuff in the gym, it's okay, we're going to try and get really fucking good at these body weight goals, stuff that you probably haven't done before, not just press ups and stuff. We'll get really good at these body weight stuff, and then we'll be able to transition that back into the gym. But for this time, we've got this kind of different goal.
Yes, yeah. And I think that's very key. And I think, like, you talk about motivation. I think that was something else that sort of resonated with me there as well. It's like one of the big things I've always tried to do with people move away from the fat loss goal into the muscle building goal, understanding that one, that process is going to take longer. So if you're sitting there waiting for the scale to go up, it's quite demotivating. We're used to 0.5 to 1% movements, and now it's like 0.5 a month, maybe less if you're more advanced. And and also the work you do in a bulk is sort of hidden. Like, you're sort of seeing your hard work pay off. Yeah. Whereas, if anything, you're seeing your hard work slowly get covered up when you're in a muscle building phase. So I always think about, okay, can we switch someone from physique mindset to thinking about the scale, to thinking about like what they look like in the mirror, to think about their altitude, get so unbelievably zoned in a performance mindset where their main focus is like, I don't care what I look like in the mirror too much as long as it doesn't get really sloppy. But if I know that if I'm getting the calories in and my bench press is going up and I can engage it, my chest gets bigger.
Yeah. And I think mindset is hugely important here, and that's where the habits that we build come in. So the habits that we've done earlier, the foundations that we've built, have to be done here as well and have to be understood. Because I mean, a big thing with my guys, I actually try and refrain from using the word bulking. I say like a gaining phase, because I just think that, I don't know if it's just me, but I think that the word bulking just has these connotations because it's stuff that you use when you were younger. It's what you see in the magazines. And when I think bulking, I just think like muscle, but then a little bit of fat and, eating loads of calories and stuff like that. And I don't know, it's a word for me that just doesn't tell me the word control in there.
Yes.
And we want that little bit, we want that control in there to be, well, to not veer off track, right? We want to go in that straight line. It doesn't matter if we're swerving a little bit, but we don't want to go down a different fork,
Yeah.
So I think that mindset for people is massively, massively important. And you're absolutely right, because it does get covered up. And again, I've been in this situation very recently as well, where, take your shirt off, and I'm turning around to my missus and I'm like, do I look all right? Do I look good? And she's like, you look fine. But like sometimes, like when you're your own worst enemy, you can get that in your head. And that's why having a coach, I speak to my coach all the time, why having a coach is so important and so useful, because you can beat yourself up. And this is where a lot of people get caught in the trap of things. You could go, right, I'm gonna bulk. All right, I'm gonna gain for a little bit. And then you gain for however many weeks. And then you notice that your waist isn't 75 centimeters like it used to be. It's gone up 3 centimeters, and you're like, oh, I need to cut. And again, I've done this. I need to cut, and then you cut, and you're like, right, I've cut. I'm a little bit shredded. Right, I'm gonna bulk again, and then you bulk for 3 more weeks, and it's just that cycle. Whereas I want to try to get people out of that cycle and just help with the mindset and be like, this is the goal. This is where we're going to push you to. Sometimes you'll get uncomfortable. We need to push you past that.
What kind of strategies do you implement with your guys to actually kind of get them that far? Like, is there any particular things that you tend to see that you do on a regular basis to help push people, one, past the bulking mentality, but also trying to push past that short-term, ooh, I'm getting too fat sort of phase?
I think with my guys, it's very much a trusting process. And I don't want to sound like super cringy when I say that, but they've bought into me. They understand what I do. And if I'm like, if I tell them, if I pre-frame it that, okay, that, there might be a time where you start to feel a little bit uncomfortable, it's fine. Everyone goes, if I can pre-frame this for them, then by the time that they get there, they'll be like, okay, this is probably what he was talking about. We just push through. It's almost like in a fat loss phase, for example. I will tell my clients, in the first 6 weeks, you won't see out. Because we're going to go that slow to begin with, that I'm just trying to build up the foundations. I'm just trying to build up these habits where, it's going to go slow. So if I can tell them that it's going to go slow, and then the 6 weeks it goes slow, and then after that, they can put that trust in me because I know what I'm doing and I've pre-framed it for them. So in that gaining, in that bulking mentality, if I can say, you will gain a little bit of body fat if we do these things correctly. If you start going off track and going down a different road, then we're probably going to have to pull things back. But if you do as I say, which is why they come on board for coaching, then we'll get around this and we'll feel a lot more comfortable. And it's the foundations, again, that I mentioned in terms of fat loss and everything. It's the foundations that we build in terms of the stress management, the slowing down when eating, the good sleep routine, the getting the steps in, all these different things, which are just going to be super, super important, especially just taking that time to calm down, bring our nervous system down, not get anxious, not get worried, not get nervous. And then that just, if we manage all this stuff, then that's just going to put them in the right mindset, ready for maybe 12 weeks time when they've gone up 1 kilo, let's say, not overall, but like gone up kilo in like a week or two, and they're like, oh, Brett, I'm feeling bloated, I'm feeling fat. Well, cool, but what did we have that night before? Did we have extra carbs? We had that? I might be like, we had that refeed yesterday, remember? So we've got extra carbs in our system. Like, we're probably feeling a little bit more watery. Don't worry about it. So it's just trying to pre-frame it for them so that they're like, okay, I can take a deep breath.
Yeah. And so with your guys, I mean, how long, like, would you look at, I don't want to use the word bulking because we've said that's not a good word, but how long would you aim to push calories for with someone? Is it completely individual? Do you break it down into, blocks? So you do it 3 months, another 3 months? Like, how do you sort of approach that time frame, and how do you have that conversation with people?
So it's very much individual, but I don't want to give you that wanky PT answer that it's just, the one. It depends.
I like it depends. There's a time and a place it depends, but you've got to tell me what it depends on.
I'm gonna give you an answer that you'll prefer. The answer lies somewhere in between. All right, it lies somewhere in between. So, one person might be very ectomorphy, as you said, air quotes. Okay, not a lot of muscle to them, fairly skinny. And we might be like, okay, all we want to do is add size, add mass, but we want it to be lean mass essentially. So, I might not need to bring them back to maintenance or anything like that, or bring their calories down for a good couple of months. So I've got a guy at the moment. We started gaining back in January. Probably give it another couple of months and I'll see, how do you feel? If he feels all right, that's cool. We don't need to change anything. If he's recovering well as well, all this sort of stuff. If he's not got any injuries, no niggles or anything like that, then we don't necessarily need to change that much. Whereas someone who is, and I mentioned this before, who is like their own worst enemy a little bit, and who looks at themselves in the mirror every day and has that almost like fighting battle of like, again, I've been through this before, of, oh, you look good today, oh, you don't look good, oh, you gain a little bit of fat, you're okay. Like, I might be like, okay, we're gonna sort of gain for 8 weeks. We're gonna see how we get on with that. We're probably gonna push it to 12 because 8 is not gonna give us that much leeway. But if we go for 12, see where we're at. Maybe we need to then bring your calories down a little bit after that, or reduce your workload intensity, or just workload in general. Maybe we need to increase your steps a little bit, just give you a little bit more cardio, go into Mr. Lehman's least mode, as he would say it. But yeah, it's very individual on how that person's responding to what we're giving them, which I know sounds very wanky, but it's true. I want to see how that person responds, because if that person's not responding very well to high calories, or they're not able to get the food in, or they're not digesting it well, or they're not sleeping well, they're having the food last thing at night and then they're not sleeping well and stuff like that, then that's something that I need to look at. I need to then have that conversation with them. And again, if they are bought into me, and if I can instill that trust between us and just have that communication, I think that they'll understand what I'm trying to say, as well, because of who I learn from as well. And I think that's a big factor, and the application that I have for the learning. Like, I'm not just buying a Brett Contreras' glute guide off Amazon, flicking through a few pages and then pretending that I know fucking everything. That shots fired at someone who I'll tell you after. But like,
you're gonna get so many DMs now asking what that story is.
Yeah, I know. Some people know. But like, muscle nerds, Nick, Michael Goulden of Integra, like these people are the people who I'm learning off. And, if I can apply that knowledge to these people who come to me, this is why we get the results, because I'm trying to actively go out and think, how can I get better results for my clients as well?
Yeah. I think that's like going off on an ever so slight tangent, but I think that's one of the most underappreciated ways of retaining clients. So everyone talks about like, you'll get the business coaches out there and saying there's no point going and investing in more in education if you can't sell a product. So you got all the education people over here saying the quickest way to make more money is be better at your craft, and again, answer falls somewhere in the middle.
Yeah.
But I think one of the biggest things about doing more education, it's not just I learn more education so I can get better results, but I think it's a real untapped resource for retention. I think, I remember for years I was known in my last company as one of the guys that was one of the best at retention in the world. And every time there was a presentation about retention, someone would present and they'd talk about, knowing when the package is going up and how to bring up the renewal and, and how to do all these things. And don't get me wrong, my retention could have been so much better if I was good at this sort of shit, right? I'm loud, brash, I speak my mind, I'm unorganized, and probably a touch of ADHD. I'm not good at the organizational shit, right? But what I was good at, I was passionate at my craft. I spoke to all my clients about where I was learning from, who I was learning, what I was doing, what other courses I was going to. And I generally think this is part of the reason why they stayed, because like every time I renew with Simon, every time I renew with Brett, I'm going to get more of a return on my investment with each package, because I know Brett's doing a mentorship with Luke Lehman. I know Brett's doing this with Nick Daniel, or insert mentor here. That, there's like, if I put down, I don't know what you charge, but if I put down 170, 200 quid a month, let's say I put down 300 quid a month for Brett, right? That's right, for anyone listening to this. I know that I'm going to get more return on my investment every 300 quid I spend. And I think that's like massively important, which I know was a massive tangent, but I do think that's but we're going back onto the topic. I think that kind of goes into a lot why people will buy into you for the time it takes to put on muscle, which is sort of slow.
Absolutely.
Go on. Anything after that?
Yeah. I was going to carry on there actually. So you're 100% right in terms of the education aspect. I think as an untapped resource, I don't think enough trainers actually go out and look to help themselves. I think a lot of them, want to know what they know. In terms of everything that I go through with the stress responses, with the digestion, with the, is this the right training for you? It's funny because Ed's just joined, and Ed messages me pretty much daily, giving me grief about this. But, if an exercise isn't fit for you, then do you need to be doing that just because it's hardcore? Does everyone need to be deadlifting? Does everyone need to be bench pressing? Like, I haven't done a flat bench press in 2 years. Like, I've got quite a shallow ribcage,
Ooh, hello, we got a comment. Agreed, that was something that was important for me when joining Brett's coaching team. His desire to learn and expand more upon his own knowledge, like the stuff about side planks. What was the stuff about side planks?
Thanks, Harry. So, yeah, the stuff about side planks. So, I felt that his obliques were pulling him up a little bit. So we had kind of like a hip hike on one side. So we started doing a lot more oblique work, some pull-off holds, which I'd done pull-off presses, but I hadn't done the pull-off holds. Mr. Daniels introduced me to that. And yeah, like that's pretty much solved the issue of that. I've still got a little bit of work to do, but this is something that I go through with Harry, that I go through with a lot of my clients. And this is why my retention is pretty high as it is, because I tell them the stuff that I've learned, but it's exactly what your video series says. It's think science, speak client. So, I might be going through this, but I want them to understand that whatever level they're at, some might want to go into a little bit more depth. Cool. I can do that if you like. But, I want to make you understand this from my perspective, so you can see exactly why I'm doing this. Because if you don't know why I'm doing this and you don't want to do it, like when it comes back to the stress management side of things, again, I know I keep going back to that, but, if I'm telling you to do something for your stress management, I want to explain why I want you to do it. Because if I'm just saying, yeah, it's just going to reduce your stress, it's just going to reduce your stress levels, you're going to I'll just be not stressed that day.
Yeah. And as we spoke about, like in the podcast of the day, right? It was like, stress management is one of those things you never really feel it. It's not like I did this meditation once and now I'm relieved of stress. Like it's this slow, gradual thing in the background. And the same thing with doing a side plank. I might do a side plank. I might feel my obliques. But that changed for the awesome work you and Harry did to change the position of his hip and improve his stability. That probably came over months. Segueing on to training a little bit, I'm sure a lot of people, when they come in to hear about muscle building, they want to hear about the training stuff, and here's us talking about all the meditation hippie bullshit. But as regards to training, if you get someone in front of you, that says, I want to build muscle, what kind of things are you looking at in that first session? Is, from the physique standpoint, do you do any assessment work, gym floor stuff? What do you do in that first initial breakdown? Okay,
so I don't do gym floor work anymore, but when I used to, with my last client, Rich, who got a phenomenal transformation as well, I'm remembering back, like we went through on the gym floor, we just did, I sort of assessed his posture in a way, but then I was like, right, let's just go on fun, do some movements, and see how you feel. That was literally the first session, because there's no point me building a program around you if I can't see things, and this is why, like, when it comes to online, like I want your photos initially. I want you to fill in a big old form for me, because I want to see a few different things. And then, I want video, like, because it's online, I want video. I will build a workout, but I want videos straight away. If I don't think your form or that exercise suits you, you're almost going to get a completely different program. But on the gym floor, for example, like with Rich, we looked at the bench press, saw how he performed that. Did it work for him? No. So we moved him on to a slightly higher incline dumbbell press, stuff like that. If we're
what did you notice there that decided that the bench press wasn't right for him? Because I bet there's a lot of people that will listen to this that thinks the bench press is the chest builder, right? So how did you decide that a bench press for this guy wasn't the right option?
So, for example, when he was pressing, his chest was just down a little bit more. Again, what I would say is part of his narrow rib cage, because you hear that a lot, like a wide rib cage, narrow rib cage. But if his chest was down, when he was sort of pressing, his shoulders were almost coming forward a little bit more. And that's while he was still trying to stay retracted. Now, because of that shallow rib cage, when he was pressing as well, yes, the shoulders come forward, more work on the anterior delt, but it also makes it slightly more what would be a normal decline. So if we can go to a dumbbell press and lift it slightly higher, then that can now be what his flat would be. And then suddenly, okay, now he's able to build his chest a lot better in the midpoint because we've lifted it up. But I had another of my clients, Joe. He said, again, not everyone's got a narrow rib cage who I work with, but his was quite shallow. His was quite depressed almost. We do a little bit of rib cage work, breathing work to help expand that. But, I said to him, all right, on your incline press, I actually want you to bring that up a little bit further. Rather than your 45 degree angle, I actually want you to bring it up to about a 60. And he messaged back, he was like, but isn't this a shoulder press? I was like, just try it out and let me know what you think. He messaged back and he was like, holy shit, my upper chest. I was like, right, so stuff like this. And, I enjoy the RTS side of things. I enjoy the foundation side of things from Integra. And, that's helped me and I've learned a lot of this stuff from my coach as well. This has helped me learn different exercises. So, in terms of strength profiles and resistance profiles, is the ways that if you are trained, that we can manipulate these sort of things. So I get a lot of flack from some of the coaches at my old gym. Again, one was on before, and it's like, if you're going to reverse band something, not everyone needs to reverse band something, but if I want to try and get a little bit more from my session, I'm not going to give it to everyone, but I might do it myself. Cool, I'm feeling great. I've fatigued the muscle in the point where I want it to fatigue, then I can start going through. So rather than having to do 5 exercises like you're doing, I'm doing 2. Nice one. So now I've improved my time, not improved my time, but now I don't need to spend as much time in the gym, because I'm going to be honest, I've got stuff at home that I need to do. I need to go out and take the dog. I need to pick up Amelia from school, all these different things.
Yeah, and I think that's important with the clientele that that we're sort of dealing with. They're going to be people that have way more priorities, don't live in the gym. Even to the extent that just that we do. Even though we're both busy, but people are office workers just don't have time to be. So we need to have the most efficient workout possible. So
Mm-hmm.
when you're looking at like assessing people whether they're right for the gym floor, what sort of things we're looking at? Obviously, we talked about sternum angle a little bit in terms of pressing, but is there any other key things for someone who may watch this and go to the gym now they're open in the UK, you know, in terms of like, I need a program that's going to match what I'm capable of? What kind of things advice would you give them? I know that's a broad question.
Yeah. So I don't know where to start with that. So a big one would be just doing something. It's cringe. Doing something that you enjoy. You know, there's no point. Like I used to do when I first started out. I used to do this of, you know, a girl would come to me and she'd want to, and this actually happened. I'm not just telling like a generic. I'm not generalizing anyone, but you know, someone came to me and wanted to work the glutes, and I was like, right, cool, we're going to work glutes 3 times a week, but we've got this one upper body day, and I'm going to try and put like an upper body exercise in each of your glute days, stuff like that, right?
Yeah.
And then she come back and I'm like, right, how was your training? She was like, yeah, I didn't do my upper body exercises on my upper body workout. She didn't enjoy it. So at the same time, like, why was I putting it in there? Yes, I wanted her to have a more balanced body, but if she didn't have the trust in me to be able to say, okay, I know what I'm doing, this is going to help here and here and here, then I mean, at the time I couldn't explain that. Whereas now I can. So definitely enjoying what you're doing is going to be a big thing. Knowing your limits as well. Knowing your limits and just trying to make sure that you've got things as spot on as possible. I used to think that I knew exactly what I was doing at 18 years old. Crazy, right? And then I did a deadlift with an anterior pelvic tilt, which would make the Kim Kardashian buzzing. Do you know what I mean? Like sticking my ass out, chest up, and then all of a sudden I was like, oh, my back. Like, and then like my back was hurting for a good few years. Well, was it my back or was it my hips? So just making sure that your form is spot on, you're enjoying your workouts. And again, your limits. If you can't get, let me say, for example, a Romanian deadlift. Okay, if you can't put the bar past your knees, maybe we need to work on lengthening that tissue. But we're not going to lengthen that tissue through a Romanian deadlift, through trying to press it and trying to push it and go as low as we can. You know, because then we're going to start rounding our lumbar, which we don't want. That's going to cause potentially more injuries. You know, so just knowing exactly what you're going to do and knowing your limits is going to be a big thing.
Yeah, I think that's a really important reason why most people when they come into this should get a coach. You know, it's like most people who start a business would get an accountant because they don't know how to do this. You know, it's the same sort of thing. People sort of go in and just they read Men's Health and go, well, I can do that, and you will have issues like that. I mean, I remember like this is what I used to do, and I'm not throwing shade on this guy because I think this guy is absolutely brilliant. But I remember the old school Jamie Alderton workouts, which started with like 100 reps on the leg extension and as few sets as possible into 4 times 20 back squats into walking lunges. I didn't know what a leg curl was. I just thought that's what the girls do, right? And like, there's probably a lot of reasons why my hips are so unstable and my anterior pelvic tilt is huge. It's because I've just never trained any posterior training. I just trained loads and loads and loads of quads. I had these when I was like, 22, 23. I had these massive quads, and I'm nowhere near the size now. No other body part was big, but I had like 24-inch quads, but like not a single bit of hamstrings, not a single bit of arms or delts. And like, I think it's in hindsight now, like, I wouldn't have done it that way. But I think this is where a lot of the RTS stuff comes from. I feel that a lot of people go down the mechanics route too far, because most of the people that are preaching this stuff didn't get big doing that stuff. They got hurt whilst doing the stuff they were doing, and have learnt ways of doing it better. So it's finding that balance between, in my eyes anyway, I don't know if you agree, but finding that balance between what is the most optimal for that person in terms of where their structure is, where the mechanics lie, but also take a little bit of the hard work and the grind that these guys did 10 years ago and that you were doing before you learned all this stuff, and don't go too far down the 4 reps in reserve, squeezy stuff, and never ever push it. Yeah,
no, completely agree there. Like, I enjoy, to an extent, the mechanic side of things, but I don't like to go too far. Yeah, we'll play around with a few exercises, but at the same time, there's not going to be a magic exercise for us. If you still can't max out that exercise, doesn't matter if you're reverse banding something, doesn't matter if you're going rest pause. If you're not actually like maxing out that particular exercise, then you're still not going to get the benefits from it. No matter no matter if the angle is exactly what it needs to be. If you don't know how to work hard, you're still not going to build that muscle. You're still not going to get exactly where you need to be. I think, and I do personally think that a lot of people think that a program, I can't remember who said that, I read it literally just before, but I think that a lot of people want to trust a process and a program so much that they think that the program is magic. Well, it's not. It depends how much hard work you put into that. If I programmed you 8 to 12 and you stop at 12 just because that's what I've told you, but you had maybe 10 more reps in the 10 more reps in the tank, then that exercise has probably done next to nothing in terms of building muscle. And this is what I have to say to a lot of my guys, like, yes, it depends on the exercise, but if we're in a supported environment and I've told you in the program, go to failure, and I think this is potentially where a lot of people get injured as well. They'll do a lot of free weight exercises. They'll do the flat bench because, as you said, it is the biggest muscle builder, right? But they'll go towards failure on that, and then they'll get stuck at the bottom, and then they'll go all the way down, and then their elbow will be out, and then they'll start being like, oh, my rotator cuff's hurting, and they'll come into the gym and they'll start going like doing that sort of shit. Do you know what I mean? And it's like, okay, we could prevent this by working smarter as well. We still need to work hard, but maybe we can work smarter. And it goes back to exactly what you said in terms of, these people worked hard and then they had to work smart after.
Yeah. And when it comes to, if you've got something in front of you, when it comes to working smart, again, this is going back to that broad question, but like, using that example to try and narrow it down, you've got a guy with a bench press is going all over the place. What would you do with him instead to help him work smarter and also help him work harder?
So instead of the bench press, I'll be honest, I love a Smith machine, right? I love a Smith machine because it's a very fixed path. You're probably, it's similar to the bench press in a way. Yeah, it's not as freely movable, but you're a lot more stable. If you are trying to build muscle, you can go to failure a lot easier without the risk. And yeah, I think I know some people who absolutely hate the Smith machine. It's like them, like everyone has like their one hated thing. For me, it's like probably Herbalife. But like for that person, it's Smith machine. I just don't get it because I think it has so many benefits. And when it comes to building muscle, I'll put a lot of my clients in fixed path movements like the Smith machine. But then again, it depends how I'm programming. I might want to put the Smith machine first and then like a converging chest press second and things like that. So it just takes a little bit more thinking rather than just a broad cookie cutter, here you go, copy and paste.
Yeah, I tell you what, I don't know how many unfollows I'm going to get, but I actually quite like a Smith machine squat too. It's a way better profile. Yeah. You get full knee flexion. More people can do it. I'm all for a Smith machine. And I completely agree with that. I think it's a Michael Gordon thing. I think where it's like get good at engaging one muscle and then sort of like learn how to bring them all together. Before this compound versus isolation, you can never really isolate anything, but like people will jump to, I'm going to squat. Why? Because it's the best for growing quads. Why? Because it's a bigger lift, it trains more muscles. If you want to train your quads, get on a leg extension, get on a hack squat. Like learn to actually engage your quads, because most people, especially anyone over 6 foot, it's not a great exercise for building quads anyway, right? Like it's not my first choice, but I think it was. Similar to Jordan Shallow says, the aim of the squat is to get better with the squat. Your accessory work builds muscle in the particular areas. But you can truly take it to where it needs to be.
And this is where we go back to the hardcore exercises that I mentioned earlier and how everyone feels that we need to be doing them. We don't need to be doing them. We don't need to, if you want to build muscle, then you can squat. Absolutely, you can. Depends on the goal, depends what you want. I train quite a few wrestlers who, some of them need to move. So I want to make sure that they're able to move in these patterns without getting injured. But if your goal is specifically just to build muscle, then awesome. If you want to build the quads, great, let's go on a hack squat. If you want to develop your legs overall, let's go on the leg press or something like that. But you don't need to squat. You don't need to deadlift. You don't need to bench press. And people, not generalizing, but people don't want to hear that. Because that's not what Men's Health says. That's not what Dorian Yates says. That's not what Ronnie Coleman says. Well, cool, but I'm not trying to be Mr. Olympia. I'm just trying to build some muscle. I'm just trying to not be skinny or not be fat.
And I would make an argument that if you ever spoke to Dorian Yates, he'd 100% agree with that. Dorian Yates, proper hit training, one set to failure, quite often on machines. And took it truly far. And not many people can necessarily handle that level of training. And if you've ever done high intensity bodybuilding, I have, and it's horrible, great fun. But you want to cry on a set of leg press. I think it's you said, you hit the nail on the head there in terms of if you want to build muscle, proximity to failure is probably one of the biggest drivers, right? And the amount of mechanical tension you can put on something. You can do that far more on a machine when you can lock yourself in, you're safe, you can go for it. Even if you're perfectly gifted in terms of squat mechanics, have a complete upright torso, right? Even if you are 100% Adam Haley, who was the best squatter I have ever witnessed in my life. And you probably never witnessed Adam Haley squat, but unbelievable. Because he's short, he's so upright, it's unreal. That's why he's got massive quads. Even probably now he doesn't train as much, right? But unreal squat. But even at that, how likely you may truly take a squat to failure? I would think you squat, just get stronger with the squat, and then use the hack squat, your pendulum squat, your leg extension, whatever you want to do to sort of build muscle, and then use the squat as a guide to say, oh yeah, that stuff's working because my squat's going up.
Yeah, 100%. Absolutely. I think as a movement exercise, it's great. Almost as an accessory for what, even though it's one of the prime movements, almost use it as an accessory for the rest of your trainer to be like, okay, yeah, as you're right. As you said, shit, I can still move. I can still move in these patterns. Because sometimes you can get caught up in machines and then not maybe have that range of movement which you're wanting. But yeah, for example, with what you said, can we take that squat to failure? Probably not, because and a lot of people be like, yeah, squat to failure, blah, blah, blah. But you probably can't, because if you're going down, then where you're going to get stuck? Probably going to get stuck at the bottom. Whereas where we want to be getting to the middle portion and then getting past that. Well, can you not use a hack squat for that? Or can you not use a leg press for that? Why are you trying to go to failure on the squat when you're not going to hit? Well, what's the goal? Is it task failure or is it muscular failure? Because if it's muscular failure, then that's going to be the stuff that's building muscle, not just the task failure of the exercise. And that's where the squat exercise, like the back squat, falls into that task failure, because it's not muscular failure. And I think people can't decipher the two. People don't know that the two things are different.
And it comes to working hard and working smart as well, right? You're talking about even if you want to fail, even if you have the ability to push your quads in a squat, how many people are mentally going to go where it needs to be in a squat? Because you fail on a squat at the bottom, you're pretty fucked. You have to sort of bar off your back. Yeah. You fail on a hack squat, it's probably quite a comfy position to sit in at the bottom. Right? And but I think if there's a moral of the story, I love this analogy from The Dark Knight. You know The Dark Knight, where he has the guy in the policeman in the room, in the interrogation room with him, and he says, he goes, you see someone's true colours when they're about to die. I probably know your friends more than you do. Do you want to know which of them were cowards? And going on to leg training, that's the last 3 reps on a hack squat. Yeah. You find out a lot about somebody when you train legs with them. Yeah. And that's the thing, it's been a while since I've probably had a hard leg training session, but I used to pride myself on being that guy who's if I'm challenged to a leg session, I will turn up. Mm-hmm. I remember the first ever UP hypertrophy day where it was a 10 exercise quad only giant set. And then Nick Daniel made one because Nick had to be one up it when he did the camps with Justin McGuire. It was 16 exercises on quads. Oh. Yeah.
No, thank you.
The worst one ever did was with Phil Learning. Yeah. It was 20. What did we start off? It was 4 sets of 50 leg extensions. Leg press, 4 sets of 20. Then you get halfway. There's 4 sets of 20. And then the last set, we dropped set to where it was all the weight on, plus Phil, plus Cy Phantom, who's a big boy. Cy jumps off, you carry on. When you fail, Phil jumps off, you carry on. They strip weights off, you carry on. And at the end, they get halfway and they're holding it like an isometric. Then you do the same on a hack squat pretty much. And then we do more leg extensions into bodyweight walking lunges. Cy Frampton was using smelling salts to keep himself awake.
Yeah, we don't need to go to that extent to build muscle. But if you want to work out like that, then you can. But you probably won't recover well for a few days.
No, and I don't think that on a regular basis is a smart way to go. I remember coming back from that, and all of my Virgin Active clients got a big quad giant set. I'm like, in hindsight, what an idiot I was giving those clients that, right? But we live and learn. But I think the ability to know you can go there and use that very sparingly is really useful. I quite like a gut check every now and again. Like if Milos starts doing camps, I would go again. Do you need to do Milos giant steps to build muscle? No. But I tell you what, every time you go and get a coach that pushes you harder than you think you could go, you train 5% harder on your own. If this is how hard you train on your own and your coach takes you here, you'll come back to your session here.
Yeah.
And then that's where you'll sit, so you get a coach to push you a bit further. And eventually, like even though you'll never train as hard as you do with a coach, you'll be able to push yourself closer to what your capabilities are. And I think that's something that's really important when it comes to coaching.
Yeah.
Should we finish off with a few of these questions then that we got? Some of them we probably already covered. So first one was like, how do I build muscle without gaining fat? That's the common one. How would you approach that?
Small calorie surf. Like, is this quick fire or am I going into detail?
You can go as quick or as long as you like.
Okay, cool. So I'd probably just make sure they're in a small calorie surplus. I'd probably just find the maintenance for a little bit, depending where they were beforehand. Find out the maintenance and then just push it a little bit further from there, and then just reevaluate sort of week by week. Like as you said before, like 0.5 to 1% is a good increase. If you suddenly gain 5% of your body fat in 2 weeks, cool, we've gone too far. We need to bring that down. That's when we'll start gaining body fat more likely. And when you lose control of what you're eating as well. And I don't like it when people say, oh yeah, I'm bulking, but or gaining, shall I say, but I'm not counting calories. I'm just eating sort of what I want. Well, cool. That's a recipe for disaster.
Yeah. I agree with that. I'd also answer that like I'm maybe the bad cop in this situation. How do you build muscle without getting fat? I would also say probably you can't. Like if you're a beginner or maybe for a short period of time, yeah. But like I want to prepare people that they're gonna get a bit softer, and if they don't get as soft as they think, win. Prepare for the worst, and when the best comes in, they feel much better. Lean bulk or dirty bulking for hard gainers? I think we've kind of already answered this, but is there anything else you want to add to that question?
Stop thinking dirty bulk. I think that's just it's a mindset thing, and it's something that we heard about via like Facebook and YouTube and stuff when we were younger, and it works for your favorite bodybuilder who was on PEDs, but it's not for everyone else, because all of a sudden you're gonna dirty bulk, and then you're gonna gain fat, and then you're gonna be like, oh, it's only been 8 weeks, but I need to cut now because I've gained too much fat, and you're just gonna be caught in that cycle.
Yeah, I also think when you do that, people end up they diet and they realize, oh, I'm exactly the same size I was before the dirty bulk, because he didn't actually put the time into it. They just got fat, and we can go into insulin sensitivity and all those reasons why that you're just going to get more fat. But how many calories do I need to gain muscle? I'm currently 70 kilos, by the way.
Don't know, how long's a piece of string?
Good, 70, answer.
Don't know. Again, without seeing them, without taking a few measurements, like 70 kilo doesn't really tell me a lot. But we could work out your calories. I like to use the Brett formula for working out calories. Yeah. But yeah, like just telling me again, this is like a generic question that I'd probably get on Instagram as well. Like how many calories do I need? If you just want a number, go and use James Smith's calculator. But if you actually want to make progress, then cool, we're going to coach you through the process, because I guarantee you it's not going to stay the same number.
Yeah. That's a brilliant answer, because it's one of the things you expect, that there's this magic formula, this thing people aren't doing is the reason why they're not shredded, or the reason why they're not jacked. And I think it's whatever you give somebody is going to be a baseline, right? The art of coaching. One of the things I have with mentoring coaches, one of the biggest things I try and get their head out of is like, don't like spend so long on initial diet plans and initial training programs. Like certainly diets, like it doesn't matter. Like I don't want to say that you should give everyone a blanket same thing, but I had one coach that used to give people, girls were 1200 calories, guys were 60. And nearly everyone got that. And people used to go, oh, it's not personal enough. Yeah, but he then went, the art of coaching is what you did with that diet. It's not about where you start, it's about where you end. And he adjusted all the time. And he was really on top of it. He was like, I don't care what I give you to start with. I just want you to start doing something, and then we'll fine tune it. And like whatever, like you might find that, put the catch calorie formula, give you a 10% surplus. It comes out at 2,800 calories. You might find you're getting fat too quickly. You might find that you need to get to 3,500. It can go either way, right?
Yeah, 100%.
Okay, cool. I want to gain 10 kilos of muscle. God, that's going to take a while. How much do I need to train?
I look like so nonchalant when I'm doing this, like shrugging my shoulders. Well, as often as you can, but as little as you need to. So, no point giving you a 6-day a week, 7-day a week program if you can't do that or you don't want to do that. I could train 7 days a week when I worked in the gym. Don't want to. I don't want to be training every day. 4 times a week, 4 or 5 times a week is a good place to be. But yeah, there's no real have to. And again, that's the art of coaching, or that's the art of just manipulating certain things. Can you, if you're doing 3 days a week, okay, because that's all you can get in. Cool. How can we maximize your time in the gym? How can we make that as effective as possible, rather than just feeling that you have to go in 5 times a week and you're just doing a load of shy exercises that aren't really going to benefit you to a certain extent. You're just doing it to try and drive more volume. Like, yes, overall volume will help, but are you just going in through the motions? Are you going in and training hard? Like, are you working certain muscles towards failure? Are you recovering properly? Like, we've got all these different things. Like, 10 kilo of muscle, that's going to take time, especially if you're not wanting to gain fat while doing it.
Yeah, I think that's the great answer. Like the biggest thing is like how you're actually executing those lifts, rather than how much you're training. Like I'd rather you train less and make them brilliant than train more with something that's a bit half-assed.
Yeah.
Like how many people do you really think stick to rest periods?
Oh yeah,
and how
no.
Yeah, and also like I think is tempo, which is another big one. But like I've got a post lined up for the next few days. It's like, I wonder how many people that got excited about starting the gym this week will still be there in a month. This is the January 1st. And that's the person that probably does 7 days a week in the gym, thinking, gyms are opening, new start, I want to be healthy, and then burn out within a week.
Yeah. Like, at the same time, so everyone's entitled to go to the gym, everyone's entitled to be excited for gyms coming back and things like this, but this is probably going to be an unpopular opinion. I think that the people who were mostly annoyed about the gym and mostly put it all over Facebook and Instagram and stuff like that are the people who probably didn't go that much. And that's my train of thought. Whereas the people, like, we just had to quietly just carry on. You know what I mean? I don't mean we as in like me and you and we're some fucking elite or something. But I think like the people who really wanted this weren't bitching and moaning and complaining on Instagram about fucking how Boris has closed gyms and stuff. We were at home, we're putting the work in, we're like, right, hopefully there's an end in sight. When it got announced that it was April the 12th, it was like, right, we're working up to this date. Let's just go. We weren't, as I said, whinging and complaining that, certain places were open or certain parks were open and certain ice cream vans and stuff like that. Like, who gives a fuck? People in pubs are probably going to be complaining that gyms are open because you're not allowed to go into a restaurant or whatever and sit down and eat your food, but you can sit in a gym and you can work out for an hour. Like, people are going to complain, whatever. Just crack on, do your thing. It's going to be your time soon.
Yeah. I kind of agree with that for the most part. I mean, I've been I certainly was anyway, one of the more vocal anti-lockdown guys that sort of at the start of this. But like, my concern was less necessarily about yes, I want the gyms to be open. Yes, I think that's part of the solution rather than the problem and things like this. My biggest concern is people's livelihoods. It was the business is the reason why I wanted this to open. We'll find a way to get in shape. But it's like these people, they've opened a gym and then they've lost a year of income and struggle with their livelihood. That's a very, very different story. Anyway, so last question we've got, because the last one, we got two. We'll cover them both, because I think we've got a little bit more. One is, when I try to build, I just get fat. What am I doing wrong?
What are you doing? I'm answering these questions with another question. I keep doing it. It's so bad. What are you doing?
That's what you should do when you've got a client in front of you, though. I always answer questions with questions.
Yeah, man. Like, what's the context of things? Yeah, I will go back to this question, but it's when people say, "Can I just have a diet plan?" It's like, well, the diet plan really has no context if I don't know everything else. It's kind of pointless. What are you doing wrong if you're getting fat? I don't know. Are you not training intensely enough? Are you not training? Are you saying that you'll go to the gym 4 times, but you're only going twice? Are you not sticking to, because your calories need to match the program as well. So if you're on 3,000 calories and you're training 4 days a week, but 3 weeks in a row, you're only going once or twice, but you're still eating 3,000 calories. Well, come on. Like you don't have the energy requirements for what you're putting into your body now. So of course you're going to be in a bit more of an excess, a bit more of a surplus, a higher surplus than what we originally planned. So that's probably going to, maybe you are gaining weight, that's the bad weight. But yeah, it all depends. It takes a deeper dive looking into things. What are your steps? Has your NEAT gone down? Because you're working hard in the gym, but you're so tired, so now you're getting the bus or the metro instead of walking to work. Like all these different things that we need to look at, which aren't just so plain to see because it's not training and nutrition. Like we need to dive deeper.
Yeah, I agree. I've got nothing particularly to add there. I think that was a good answer. So the last one we've got is, how do I build my calves? Out of all the things, I was expecting a body part one, but calves isn't the one I was expecting. I've got tiny calves, so you go nuts. What do you think?
You know what? I have fantastic calves. I have got great calves. However, they are now covered up with tattoos. So I find that when it comes to calves, a lot of people have them last in their workout and they can't wait to get it over and done with. They don't work it through a full range of movement. And they just rush it. They don't train it intensely enough. I used to struggle walking out of the gym, not because of what I did to my upper legs, but it's because of what I did to my calves. I did a lot of rest pause sets for my calves and taking them to failure because I knew it was muscular failure, not just task failure. And working them through different ranges, are you going to work the gastroc? Are you going to work the soleus? Like which? Are you doing seated? Are you doing standing? But to work calves, both will be fantastic. Trying to go towards failure on those guys if you want to build them, because that's what we've spoken about, building muscle using high threshold motor units. That's what we want to go through, and maybe put them first. Maybe put them first in your workout, or like midway rather than leaving them till last. Because I find that when you leave whatever you've left till last, you're rushing it. No matter what it is, whatever workout you're doing, whatever's last is rushed.
Yeah, I think that's hitting the nail on the head. I think we can go into the mechanics of it and all that sort of stuff, but most calves are always a tag on.
Yeah.
The best results I ever got on my calves, which wasn't much. I didn't do it for quick enough, but for long enough. Sorry, but it was that. It's like I used to start. I think it's when I used to train with Justin McGuire. I mean, you always started leg workout for calves. And Justin had the most ridiculous calves I've ever seen. Just unreal. I mean, everything about Justin was monstrous. But yeah, yes. Sweet. So that's sort of like all the main questions. I kind of want to finish. I'm going to think of these on the fly, so I don't know how well this will work. Because you mentioned quickfire, and I quite like the idea of finishing off with a quickfire question. Like the Phoebe Friends question. First one that comes to your head. And I'll try not to get you in too much trouble, but I can't promise anything. Right, cool. WrestleMania Night 1 or WrestleMania Night 2?
Night one.
Night one, okay. Chest press, dumbbell press.
Chest press.
Split squat, back squat.
Split squat.
Calorie surplus, calorie deficit.
Deficit.
You're not going to answer the next one. Nick Daniel, Luke Lehman.
Both.
Well, that's a really, really smart answer. Oh man, I've ran out of good ideas now. Favorite body part to train?
Got to be chest, right? Chest.
Yeah.
I love a chest session, but I also love a back session. I think that's just because of the range of equipment I can use in my gym. But I love a back session now.
I always love a back session because my back is my dominant body part. Mm-hmm. I should probably get out of that mindset. I should get the love for training arms back because my arms, triceps in particular, are rubbish compared to everything else.
Or calves.
Yeah, or calves. Yeah, that's true. I that's something I think as well. That I think it's good for this chat is you're only as big as your smallest body part. If you ever look, and I'll probably put this on my stories later so people can see. I'm a perfect example of this. If you look at any back shot from my last photo shoot, does my back look big because my arms are small, or does my back look smaller because my arms are small? And I always think your smallest body part brings everything up and brings everything down. And I when I look at somebody's physique, when I'm assessing somebody, it's like, right, what's the smallest body part here? If I could put 2 kilos on you in a year, could I put 1.5 of that on your delts? Will look much like you've gained 5 kilos of muscle, rather than putting 2 kilos all over and look like you've gained hardly anything. Yeah,
like I used to be very dominant in my shoulders. So wherever I'd put muscle, it was just in my shoulders. So, but because of that, and I say that's where I put muscle on, but it's probably because of my poor pressing mechanics at the time. But my shoulders were just insane. They're out there, but it made my chest look really small. Yes. So I had these wide shoulders, these big arms, but my chest was tiny. And I look back at photos now and I'm like, oh, bloody hell, Brett. Whereas like now I feel like I've built everything up quite well and I've got that understanding.
Yeah, we'll finish off with a few more. I'll do one more fitness one. I'll do a few resting ones as it's WrestleMania weekend, and I did build this up like WrestleMania Night 3. Sweet. Dumbbell lateral raise, cable lateral raise.
Cable lateral raise, love it.
100%. I'm so glad you said that. You allowed back because you said that. And it says dumbbells.
Thank you.
Fuck off. I know there'll be someone listening to this. Stop dumbbell lateral raising. Well, no, not instead of cables. Cables all the way. The Fiend or Kane?
Kane.
Oh, I would have gone the other way, despite the horrendous WrestleMania build. Drew Lashley.
Lashley.
Oh, I would have gone the other way as well. Rock, Stone Cold.
Rock.
Benoit, Angle. I said a bad word there.
Angle.
Just about Angle. WWE, AEW.
WWE.
Oh, interesting. You need to watch more AEW.
I enjoy AEW.
Should Lesnar beat the streak? Should he off?
No.
No one ever should. I think we'll call it there. So where, obviously, other than Instagram, which you can click on, where can people find you?
I'm mainly Instagram, Brett Mac Coaching. I think the only other way that you can really hear me is Facebook, Brett Mccarten Online Coaching, or my podcast, which I am honoured to have had you on a guest on there. So yeah, podcast is One More Fitness Podcast Can't Hurt. You can find that on Spotify, Amazon, Google, Deezer, pretty much anything I've uploaded it to. So yeah, we've got some pretty good episodes in there.
So instead of me coming back to that very, very nice comment with a dig, I'll just insinuate it by one more quick fire question. Right? Favorite James Bond actor?
I'm not a James Bond fan, so I'm just going to go Daniel Craig.
Oh, well, Daniel Craig after Sean Connery is probably like where I am. Daniel Craig's good. Awesome, man. But it's been an absolute pleasure to have you on.
Thank you, man.
Some of the results you're getting with guys building muscles, insane. And I'm sure we'll do this again. At some point, I'm going to turn this into an actual podcast with the advice you gave me. So we'll definitely get this happening again. I'll maybe get you on for 007.
I like it. Cool.
Sweet, man. Have a good rest of your day.
Nice one. And you, buddy. Take care.